Rooted in faith, rooted in family, rooted in values, rooted in traditions. Welcome to the Rooted Outdoors podcast. Welcome to the Rooted Outdoors podcast. I am your co-host, Corey Bauman. I got my other co-host, Dave Ashworth. Dave, dude, it's been too long.
It's been not 9 months, according to my calculations here. That's way too long. Way
too long for something that we enjoy so much, right?
Yeah. Yep. We do.
But
yeah, I'm excited to get back. We're back.
We've had a lot going on, though. I mean, let's be honest. I mean,
we have
a lot of life changes. So,
yeah.
No excuses, but just a lot going on. So we've got a lot to catch up on.
We do. I don't even
catch up everybody
don't
up.
Don't even know where to start. I guess we should start with kind of a recap of our hunting season last year.
Yep.
I know we haven't talked about that much. I mean, we put out some videos and stuff, but first talk to us about your Texas excursions down there, because that's kind of completely new.
Man, I'll tell you what, it was an awesome season, but a really challenging one at the same time, because I mean, I knew, looking at new properties and trying to find new properties to hunt. I mean, Texas is, I know we talked about this before, but Texas is so different. There's almost everything's a lease, and there's some public land that I found and scouted pretty much all year. I mean, the whole season was pretty much a scouting trip. Every time I went out, I would scout and plan to hunt whatever sign I found, basically, because it was challenging. I mean, I found the public ground I found, it was hard to kind of get away from. It was hard to get away from any other pressure. I mean, even I'd hike 2-3 miles in and I'd find boot prints. I mean, so that I didn't see. I mean, I think all season I saw 2 deer, although the one deer I would have shot for sure. I rattled him in, actually. And I forget the date. I don't remember exactly. It was in November. I want to say it was after the trip to PA.
It was probably late. It was probably late November.
Came back and got out, and I remember it was a really, it ended up being a really warm day too, which was, again, that's weird too, like having the different temperatures. I mean, I think that day it was 75 degrees when I was in the tree at 11 a.m. and I rattled this buck in, and I don't know, it was bizarre. It was wild. It never got a shot, but other than that, I mean, I had an encounter with probably at least a 200-pound hog I almost stepped on. Sneaking around trying to find a tree stand, which, again, that's something completely new. I mean, in Pennsylvania, we don't have hogs.
We do not.
But I'll tell you what, man, it's going to be cool to be able to kill one of those someday.
It is. I know.
And people here, they look at you funny because they've been, people that have grown up in Texas, it's such a nuisance animal. They destroy crops like you would not believe.
Yeah.
They could destroy hundreds of acres. Hundreds of acres in a night. I mean, I talked to a guy that owns a ranch, and said it killed 300 acres or something like that in one night.
It's crazy to think about. It's crazy.
So anyway, it was a long hot season at times, with not seeing a lot of deer. Saw a couple coyotes. Just learning different places to hunt. It's, different terrain. I used, the Onyx app for a lot of it. And, towards the end of the year, I did find a flock of turkey. So I'm pretty excited to go back and scout that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Again, all public land. I didn't get on any private land this year, which, we've talked about. That's kind of a challenge of mine. People have said, oh, you're going to have to get leased land. You'll never kill a deer on public land. And that's all you had to say, dude, because
yeah,
I'm gonna
I love it.
Chances are my first deer I kill in Texas will be on public land. So, and I'm okay with that. So even if it takes me 4 or 5 years to kill a deer, and I don't think it will, but I'll hit it hard with cameras deep in different areas this year. that's the plan, honestly. Just to this summer, just get out, put a bunch of cameras out real deep, find some sign, and hopefully get on some buck. I mean, they're here. I know there's a place our family, actually, we were in a park a couple weeks ago that you actually can't hunt. And I was just driving around. I know I sent you the video of that deer, and I mean, it's a giant.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't hunt there, but it was a property that's, a public park, basically a state park.
Yeah.
So they're out there. It's like anywhere else. It's just got to find them.
Yeah, and you got to put in the work, which obviously you'll be willing to do. So
yeah,
it's good.
What's going on with you, man? Married for what year?
Yeah,
no, you just had an anniversary, right?
In May it'll be 2 years.
Okay, 2 years.
Yeah,
okay.
so coming up on 2.
Man.
Yeah, it's crazy. Time flies.
2 years already.
Yeah. Really busy with work. We just finished our basketball season, which is weird because it's not supposed to go into March for us typically, but it was cool. We made it to states for the first time in school history.
That's neat.
And in the first round, we played a really big public school around here, and we probably should have won, but we ended up losing on a buzzer beater. And but it wasn't just an awesome season, like some just ridiculous moments. And
yeah,
I'm glad it's over, because it takes up a lot of time. But man, that was a blast. So
I mean, you're not playing, but the schedule's the same grind as
it
the
is.
kids. You know what I mean?
It
You're not. Let's be honest, you're not a kid anymore. But
No,
I love the fact that you're so into that and you're pouring into those kids because that's so fun, man. So you got a little March Madness in Pennsylvania this year. High school March Madness.
I did. Yeah, wasn't expecting it when the season started, but we got it. It was a bonus, so we'll take it.
That's cool.
And then hunting wise, just kind of, I was usually am doing a lot of shed hunting, like early March, and with basketball, I just didn't have time. And then I had a couple free weekends, and there was 5 inches of snow on the ground, so I went out a couple times. So I just really haven't gotten out a lot yet, and now it's getting toward the end of March, so hopefully get out and look for sheds. But now it's kind of sheds / turkey scouting, because turkey season is going to be here soon, which this time of year, every year I get really excited for turkey because it's cold here. I'm ready for warm weather. I'm ready for hunting, like without scent control, just getting out there. I'm just ready for that, and that's going to be here soon.
Man, turkey season, like again, like to your point, so one of the signs of turkey season is like the weather changing and things like that. It's already getting warm here, and our season's a little bit earlier. Like they have different zones in Texas. So like I'm in the North Zone, and it's pretty crazy. Like most of the North Zone is Eastern turkey, so just like we would hunt in Pennsylvania, and then there's actually a portion of the North that has Rios.
Yep.
Which is crazy to think that there's Rio turkeys up here and stuff, but
that's awesome.
So we cannot go any further, because even if there's listeners that don't know about Hercules, like we need to update on Hercules, right? I'm sure there's some people that haven't heard maybe. So why don't we give a quick Hercules update?
Yeah. So just a real quick backstory. We were waiting all summer, checking pictures, thought he was gone, realized that he had lost that other second main beam, and we were getting tons of pictures of him. Just didn't realize it was him, but it was him. And man, we were close a couple times. We never saw him in person, but I run a lot of cameras, and I know days that I was in the stand and where I was getting pictures of him on the farm, and it was pretty close a couple times. But just never ran into him, and got a picture in late November, like the middle of rifle season, of him, and that's been it. So not really sure what the status is right now. He very well could be alive, and he very well could be gone forever, and I'm not really sure. Hopefully get out and look for sheds soon, and that would be a good way to find out that he's alive. But if not, probably waiting until June, July to really find out if he's alive or not. And regardless of what happens, man, it's been an awesome journey, and we actually had an opportunity to speak this year at a sportsman's dinner, and we kind of used that story of that deer to really drive our message, which was really cool. So, like I said, regardless of what happens with the story of Hercules, it's still something that God has put on our hearts to use it to share about him with people, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that event was, I mean, we've been talking about a lot of things with Rooted Outdoors, and where does Rooted Outdoors go next? Like, what is our main focus, other than the fact that we want to share the gospel with people and introduce people to the outdoors, because there's a huge, obviously, connection with faith and God's creation and just being there.
Yeah.
Everything seems to, we talk about this all the time, everything relationship wise with the Lord seems easier when you're outdoors, when you're camping, when you're hunting, when you're fishing, and you're away from all the distractions where you can really focus. And so it's been great. But yeah, I mean, speaking was one of the things we wanted to do this year, and so that was really cool experience.
Yeah.
And something we now know that was part of God's plan for us, was to speak. And I think like just with my background and my current other life of master networks and that career, I've done a lot of training and speaking, and I feel like all the training and speaking training I've had was basically God's way of saying, like, I've prepared you now. Like, now is your time. So and I think that's really cool. And I know, it was kind of your first, second, third time, whatever, getting on stage. But I feel like, and hopefully, it was comforting to do it together, right? And by no means am I like an expert speaker, but just to have that comfort and do it together was just such a cool experience.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me because I've never done a lot of speaking like that before.
Yeah.
And I was, pretty nervous before, naturally. I think even people that have spoken for a long time get nervous before,
for
stuff
sure.
like that. But once we got rolling and started to get into the topic that we were talking about, not only hunting, but the opportunity to share the gospel, there was just a lot of comfort in that. And it just kind of was an affirmation for me that, like, this is what I need to be doing. It's like God was telling me, look, I know you haven't done this a lot, but you should be doing this because, like, you have a story to tell, and, like, I want to use you to share my love with people, you and Corey.
Yep.
And it was, like, really affirming, talking to them after. The one guy that runs it made a comment about, this is the first time we've ever done this before, and it didn't go perfect. Like, we had some technical difficulties. We had a key video at the end that segued into kind of our gospel message that wouldn't play. And it didn't, it was just kind of a mess. But, after talking to one of the guys that runs it, and he said that, in his 12 years that he's been doing it, like, we were one of the best ones, if not the best one that he's had. And not saying that to brag about ourselves, just that another affirmation of God telling us this is what you guys need to be doing.
Yep.
And, God willing, we're going to do a whole lot more next year. So
yes,
we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, we just got done talking about the potential opportunity that we just got invited to. So I think our goal is to do 5, 6, whatever we do next year, but to do more of that. And now's that time of the year. So if you're listening to this and you're part of a church, a youth organization, whatever it is, and you guys are looking for a speaker for next year, we'd be willing to talk to you about that and see what that looks like. I live in Texas, so of course, I would travel back or whatever. We would work it out, but yeah, reach out to us.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
Now, It's that time of year again for the youth turkey hunt. So should we talk a little bit about what is this year's youth turkey hunt gonna look like? Did we talk about last year? Do we want to do a quick recap on last year?
Yeah, let me recap last year, and then why don't you handle this year?
Yep.
So last year was awesome.
Yep.
Man, that was awesome. So Corey unfortunately couldn't make it last year. We had a good friend of ours, Christian, who came out to the farm and did it with me, and he was great. We had a young man named Hunter come out, and it was his first turkey hunt. He had hunted before, but it was his first turkey hunt. Just an incredible morning. Heard turkeys everywhere. Eventually had a turkey that I knew was on top of this one ridge. Heard him gobble once, again closer, again on the field edge, and I knew he was coming. I didn't know how long it would take. Eventually looked back, saw him strutting out behind us. He ended up coming in. Fortunately, it just didn't work out. He kind of spooked off and ran off. But I mean, he was full strut at the decoys 10 yards away for a minute or two. Just didn't work out, which is hunting. You know, if you've hunted turkey for any period of time, you've had those days. But man, that was cool. And you know, Corey is making his comeback this year, and I have a feeling that he's not gonna miss too many more moving forward.
No, I remember that night before, and then like the day of, like all I could think about was that. All I could think about is what's happening right now. Like, where are they at? Like, it's getting light, and you know we're like an hour behind here. So I remember getting up, and it was like pitch black, and I knew like your son had already risen on the farm, and I'm just like, man, like what is going on? And you're filming, so you know you're not like really communicating with me too much because you've got to like be on game, you know, on top of it. But it's like,
for sure,
man,
it was awesome. It was awesome, and we put together a film for that hunt called Hunter's Experience that is on our Facebook page. So if you want to check that out, we'll also be uploading that to YouTube. But you know, Corey and I both worked on it when he was in town, and I think it's the best film that we've put together so far, with just the production level, the story, and we have some pretty cool plans for this year's film that we're really excited about. And so
we're already starting to map it out.
Yeah,
for sure. We just
So tell us some more about this year, what we have going on, as we get closer here.
Yeah, I think, you know, the one thing that's exciting is that every year we seem to have more people that are interested in it when we put it out there, which is really cool. So this year we had 6 or 7 or 8 some people had reached out to us through various sources, and they were interested, and so we did some phone calls, and you know, I think it was pretty clear who that was going to be after we had talked to several folks. And the tricky thing is like, we would love to do the turkey hunt for everyone, but it's also something right now that, you know, with the timing for the Pennsylvania turkey hunt, like the youth hunt, really, and to be able to film it and do it the right way, like we really have to both be there. And you know, so, you know, next year maybe we do 2, or, you know, I've already said I would be willing to do one in Texas this year, you know, kind of run and gun one and just do one. But so this year we're going to do another one. We've picked a young man, and his father and his grandfather are actually coming out to the farm. And, you know, it's the obvious piece that we know, you know, this is what we should be doing is, you know, Dave got a text message from the father of the son that's coming out, and said, you know, he had woke his son up and woke the grandfather up and told them both, and you know, it was kind of an emotional moment that they were going to get to experience this together. And all of these little bits and pieces seem to fall together every single year, and we don't press about it, we pray about it, and we it just happens, right? And so I couldn't be more excited for this one, just to have. I know how involved like my grandfather was, and like just proud my grandfather was of like just learning how to shoot with a .22. And like I remember I remember when I was younger, I would shoot a deer and we hunted like kind of around his property, and I'd shoot a deer and I'd take it over and we'd like hang it up, and like he got like completely loved that. I mean, we'd take pictures, we'd talk about the deer, I'd tell him a story, and then, we'd go to like a family reunion or church, and he'd like make me tell the story to someone else, one of his friends. Like, just such a proud thing for a grandfather.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that I'm just so excited about, is that grandfather gets to be there for that, and whether he gets a turkey or not, he's gonna be hunting with a bow too, which I think is awesome.
I do too. I do too.
He's just, he's a kid that practices a lot. Like he's in an archery league. Sounds like he's won some trophies and stuff like that. So I'm excited, man, to have a kid with a bow too, that potentially, we could get him a turkey, right? So it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, it is, man. I can't wait. I say this every year. It's my favorite hunt of the year. And we do a lot of hunting. We do a lot of really cool hunts. You can't beat like a crisp November morning during the rut. Your own turkey hunt opening day. But man, this one, the day after it's over, is circled on the calendar for next year, because it is just, man, it's every year. God just picks a perfect person for us and gives us an incredible experience every year. Sometimes we get one, sometimes we don't, but it's just awesome every year, and have a pretty good feeling this year is going to be no different.
And this year it's Easter weekend, so Good Friday is that Friday, and then the turkey hunt's that Saturday, so just an extra awareness, I think.
Yep. So just another way for us to share some of that with them and through the film as well, which is always a good thing. So
yeah. I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped.
I'm ready. But speaking of filming, I know we talked about this some. We did like a Facebook Live, but let's talk about Breaking Dawn a little bit. What that looks like, where that's going. I know we're still trying to figure things out, but I think we would, it's something that we need to get into a little bit here, just to give a full update on what's going on.
Yeah. Well, how about if I started off with how we got to Breaking Dawn, the name, because that's definitely something that it's crazy. Like when we were talking about Rooted Outdoors and what we were going to name Rooted Outdoors, and of course it became Rooted Outdoors, and there's a reason why we did that. It means a lot to us, and we'll talk a little bit actually about even more of what Rooted means and what we think it can mean to others in a little bit. But Breaking Dawn, for some reason, was this like name that kept coming back into my head, and I kept telling Dave, like, I don't know what it's going to be, but Breaking Dawn is like something is going to come of this name, Breaking Dawn. And the reason is because one of the things that Dave and I really share, not that we're the only people in the world that share this, but I think one of the things we really love about hunting, well, really anything. I mean, I can think of even when we camped out up here in Texas, like when we went on our, our journey here and our hike, was that when dawn breaks in the morning, there's just so like, God's never more evident than when dawn breaks in the morning, like for me, right? Because everything kind of comes alive, right? You have this like transition that happens from night to morning where, you have coyotes that are still out hunting, but then you have deer that are like feeding, going back to bed. Like you have birds that are actually waking up. You have turkeys that are starting to gobble. Like there's this transition, and it's just this amazing thing. And so Breaking Dawn was something we were like, it needs to be something. And so we had been talking about our filming and where are we going to take filming, and what are some of the ways that we can fund some of the things we do with Rooted Outdoors? How can we fund more hunts? How can we do more things with Rooted Outdoors? Because essentially Rooted Outdoors is a nonprofit, not formally yet, but will be soon. And there's challenges to that because you want to do a lot of things with Rooted Outdoors and you want to give back, but unfortunately, like that does take funding. So one of the ways one of the things that we know it's important in anything is like you look at what your talents are and what you're good at, and we're not the best by any means, but I think we've gotten pretty good at filming and editing and producing. And so we said, well, let's start a production company, right?
Yeah.
So tell us what Breaking Dawn is. What does that look like maybe for us moving forward? What does that mean for anybody that's listening to this? Like,
Sure.
how can we help them maybe with Breaking Dawn?
Yeah, sure. So, video production is the main thing with Breaking Dawn. Our focus is naturally going to be in, outdoor type stuff, just because that's what we've done the most of and we feel the most comfortable. So whether that's filming hunts for other people or doing, commercial type work for outfitters, but we also feel pretty comfortable doing, inside work as well, like commercial work, whether it's putting a commercial together for a business so that they can help market themselves better. I think everybody's pretty aware of how important video is when it comes to marketing these days. There's obviously all types of outlets you can use to market yourself, but video, like if you're, just as an example, if you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, where do you stop? It's usually on a video, and that's not an accident. That's just what people watch, and so we want to kind of use our skills to develop that a little bit and help people, market themselves. So, like I said, it's going to be focused on the outdoor industry type stuff, and then also some commercial work for businesses to help market themselves, and then we'll just kind of see where it goes from there. But we feel pretty comfortable in those spaces that we can put together a really good product that someone will be able to use and help grow whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing you said too is like video is so dominant right now in the way people are telling their stories. I think the one thing I think that we can really add to anything, whether it's outdoor, it's your business or whatever, and something that I'm really passionate about and I've trained on and I've been coached on is, people attach themselves to why you do something and why you're passionate about it, and not necessarily your product. Like if you have a really good product, it's expected. Like I'm not going to do business with somebody, or I'm not going to do something, partner with somebody if their product's not good in the first place, right?
Sure.
So the product is expected to be good, the service is expected to be good. But if somebody can really, like buy into what the purpose of that person is and why they do that, like in the business world, it could be, you're a real estate agent. Well, that's great. But why are you a real estate agent? Like, why did you choose that? What are you doing for people outside of that? And the story that you tell about someone, really connects what they're doing and why they're doing it, and who they are. And it helps you, it just build connection with people. And that's one of the hardest things for business owners sometimes is they don't get, is that it's cold calling and all that kind of stuff. But like, there's a passion there with that. And I think we just kind of our mindset, we really can help people tell their story and explain why they're doing things.
Yeah.
I think there's a raccoon behind you.
Oh yeah, it is. It's a raccoon.
That would be funny. Raccoon,
wouldn't it?
Rolling by. The beauty of Rooted
You never know what you can get on the
podcasting.
podcast when it's on video. So
yeah,
that's part of the fun.
That thing looks like it's stalking one of your sheds there. Dude.
Yeah, it probably will. Yeah, if it rips an antler off the wall, let me know.
That thing's vicious. I met that cat before.
I know, it is.
Vicious.
It is.
It's like a panther.
I gotta watch my neck.
It's like a black panther.
Out, pretty much.
Oh man, love it.
So that's Breaking Dawn. So you can check us out on Facebook. We have our The Hunter's Experience video up there now. But we will be starting to kind of build out more work. If you know anybody who's a business owner, or you know somebody that's looking for some video work, get in touch with us. We'd love to try to help them out if we can. And then we'll just kind of see where that goes. Yeah. So,
let's chat about Rooted Outdoors. Maybe what we've been kicking around a little bit. We did a Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up. Dave and I have really been talking about, how do you, kind of in lines with actually what we we're just talking about, one of the ways that you can really help people is build a community that supports some of the challenges and struggles they go through. And I think in life and in business and whatever that is, it's important to have a support community around you. And I think that what can develop from some of the things we've talked about is building a rooted community, right? And so we've talked about like whatever that looks like. Maybe it's a rooted hunter, a rooted fisherman, a rooted outdoorsman makes the most sense to us right now. But like building a community where folks, we talk about being rooted in faith first, right? Rooted in family, rooted in values, rooted in traditions. One of the hardest thing I think for people sometimes, and we've had multiple conversations with, young guys and older guys and whatever, is like sometimes it's tough in the outdoor space to, I don't even want to say admit, but like you might have like a different group of people that you are around in the outdoor world, right? And there's no secret. I'm not exposing anything that people don't know already. It's nothing against certain people in the outdoors, right? But there's a difference. Like I think a lot of guys really struggle with connecting their faith in what they're doing with the outdoors because of potentially who they've been surrounded with or what they've dealt with. And I really feel like Dave feels the same way. We can build a community where we have these, we kind of support each other. Like we lay out basically what does it look like to be a rooted outdoorsman or a rooted hunter? Like what does that mean? Like how do you balance if you have a spouse and you want to hunt, dude, it's the rut, right? But how do you like have the conversation with your wife to show her how important it is for you to spend a week away from your family doing something she may not understand, right? Like how do you show her that that's important without just saying, hey, by the way, honey, like, I'm going to be gone for a week and you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I've been there. Like I've learned a lot. And I used to just be like, hey, by the way, like I'm going hunting tomorrow. And dude, like I'm not perfect. Trust me. Like there's definitely times where you got to get in a tree stand and you're not expecting it.
Right.
Like you got to go when it's time. But there's definitely a way to work through relationships and things like that. And I think we can learn together. Like we're not experts, but we've learned a lot, right?
Right.
So that's just one aspect of it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of people overlook in the Bible is the idea of like discipleship. And if you look at what Jesus was doing, yes, he came to die and be the sacrifice, but he was teaching and leading disciples so that it could spread. He was building a community that could impact the world. And so I think that, through hunting, this is something that Corey and I have spent a lot of time and effort and prayer going through, figuring out, what it looks like to be a Christian hunter and how to tie our faith into the outdoors and how to balance some of the things that Corey was saying. And then there's also people that disciple us too. We're not just the ones who are going to be trying to teach people. It's a community. There's people that we can teach. There's people that can teach us. So we'll have people on our podcast who have just incredible testimonies, who have been doing it longer than us, that have more wisdom than us, that can speak into our lives and everybody's life. But we also, feel like we can speak some truth into other people's lives as well because of a lot of the things that we've been through and where we've placed our priorities and our emphasis in the past and how that shifted over time. So that's something that's been on our hearts for a long time as well. And we love the podcast, so we thought that was a good way to bring those things together and build this community of the rooted outdoorsmen. And
I think the hard thing too sometimes, and I don't even know, you and I really haven't talked about this, something I battled with a little bit, is like sometimes when you do things like this, it can be recognized maybe as selfish versus selfless, like self-promoting, right? So some people might look at this and go, well, they're just creating this thing to like get more exposure for them. But in honesty, it's a completely selfless thing for me. Like I look at it like every good thing, every good community, or every good whatever it is was started by somebody, and maybe some of it was selfish, a lot of it was selfless, and there was a need for something. Somebody created it so that others could benefit, and I feel like that's where I'm coming from with this. It's like, if we can create just a space, and who knows where that can go, right? Like we've talked about it, like maybe it ends up in, we have a rooted festival every year where we get a bunch of rooted, guys together, and we just have fellowship and we shoot our bows, and like whatever that leads to, we're just gonna, like we have been, we're gonna follow whatever that turns into being, and we're gonna look for feedback from everyone else too. And what does this look like? How do we make it better for everyone that's listening, everyone that's a part of it? But being selfless with it, really, and just being the people that kind of create it and then let it evolve to whatever it is.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm in agreement 100%. The only selfish part of it for me is just, I enjoy like just talking about hunting and life and talking about like our faith with you and I. Like sure. we have these conversations all the time, and God's teaching us things all the time. And like you said, not that we know everything, but like, why would we take things that God has taught us and take failures in our own lives that we've gone through for the past however many years? Why would we not try to share that with other people so that they don't make the same mistakes that we made, and they can learn from things that we've done and things that God's teaching us? Like it only makes sense for us to do that. It would almost be selfish for us not to do that.
For sure.
If that makes sense.
For sure. And so the podcast is going to be a huge part of the Rooted community, and we've talked about bringing keeping there'll be some podcasts where it's going to be you and I, and there'll be some podcasts where we'll have a guest on that's going to hopefully share their testimony. Like that kind of stuff is going to help other people, right? So that's kind of the focus, and kind of really in essence the relaunch of Rooted Outdoors podcast.
Yeah, and we'll still talk about hunting stuff, obviously,
for sure.
But our focus and our purpose for this is definitely something greater. And we're excited to kind of just relaunch it, and it kind of was spur of the moment, but we feel like this is God's plan for what we should be doing, so that's why we're here. And when you follow God's plan, you can't go wrong. So here we are, brother. Here we are.
And look, like to Dave's point, make no mistake about it. Our goal is to bring content that you guys can learn, that that anybody that's listening to this can learn hunting tips and hunting tricks like every single time we bring somebody on. So even if it's just you and I sitting here, we'll probably wrap this thing up with a couple turkey tips. Like we should do that actually.
Yeah, let's do that.
But they should be, we're going to keep these things educational too, so that you can learn some information about it also. So what would be a good turkey tip right now? A PA turkey tip
right now.
So here it is. Here, let me set it up for you. Right.
Set me up.
So this weekend, what are the temps going to be like this weekend? What's the weather going to be like on Saturday?
It's getting a little warmer this weekend, so we'll be in the midday in the 50s, and then 60s on Sunday.
Okay. So if you had to do one thing as you're scouting this weekend, right, and you have an hour, what would you do to scout turkeys for this upcoming season?
That's a good question.
Put you right on the spot, dude.
Yeah, so what I probably will do is, what are we at? March 20th. So I'm thinking that they probably should be gobbling on the roost in the morning. So I'll get up when it's dark on Sunday morning, and I'll go out into the back, and I'll start listening, and I'll probably try to not get on top of them, but I'll start mentally identifying kind of where they're roosting, and then just scouting. So I'll scout like some field edges and different things, just kind of looking for tracks, looking for different spots that I think that they might be coming out. And then, or if I can identify where I think they're roosting, I may go into that area once it gets light, once they're off the roost, and see if I could see like specific trees where they're at, whether it's broken branches on the ground, whatever that might be, or where they're scratching on the ground, and just start to put some pieces together. So that's what I would do. Not like nothing like super specific, but just starting to, all hunting is just like kind of gathering intel and trying to use it. And so I'll just be gathering some intel, and the best time right now for me is just as it's getting light, they're gobbling on the roost, start identifying those spots, because that'll give you some really good information.
So if you get out there and it's like getting light and you don't hear anything, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you owl hoot? Like what would you do?
So me personally, I don't really call before the season starts, because birds can get call shy. Now a couple calls is not going to hurt. Like an owl hoot probably wouldn't hurt anything.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe try that. Maybe try a crow call here and there, very minimal. If I didn't, then I'd probably just start looking on some of the flats for scratchings, just to get an idea of where the birds are working during the day. That's probably what I would do if I didn't hear anything.
Gotcha. Yeah. Makes sense, man. Well, I have a public land spot that's like an hour and a half from my house. So
so you better set your alarm early.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be raining, like drizzling and stuff, like every single Saturday the last couple weeks. And I know they can gobble in the rain. Like I get that. Like I've heard them gobble in the rain, but I also don't want to drive an hour and a half. I spotted a flock of birds last year towards the end of deer season. It was around 10 o'clock in the morning. So, I don't know where they're roosting. So I'm going to be running and gunning completely this year. So my goal is just to go back to that same area, try and identify where they're roosting. Hopefully they are gobbling, and then really figure out how I can get in on them the day I'm going to hunt them. Really, like how can I get in without being seen? I might do a little bit of like looking around, scouting, but it won't be very intrusive. It's public land too, and where I saw these birds, it was actually pretty close to the road. So I'm sure I'm not the only one that knows about them. So
So I have
complete wild card.
So I have something to add to mine that I started doing last year. So this is a little outside the box. So my cousin and I went out to the farm to scout. Got out before dark, and we actually went up into one of our deer stands. Because obviously if you move, you're still gonna get seen by a turkey, but you have a better chance up in a tree than you do on the ground. Because they're kind of eye level. And you can hear a little bit better when you're up in the tree. And we actually heard a turkey on the ridge over, and he was working this point for had to be an hour and a half. And then we went opening day. We didn't get him, but we did see 3 different toms come working through that area. So being up in the tree, being elevated, not getting seen, and scouting from a deer stand actually helped us to get on those turkeys that morning. We didn't get one, but that could be a tip for some people. And if you like to film at all, it's a great way to get film of turkey, get some B-roll that you can use in your videos because you're up in the tree. Bring your tree arm that you use for deer and film some of the turkeys. Sit on a field edge somewhere and film some of the turkeys as they come out. It's great B-roll to add to some of your films.
Well, to that, not to get too far into filming either, but I know there's a lot of guys that film now. Anytime, so for us, like we're storytellers, so we want to tell the story. But anytime you go out, like make sure you have your camera with you. Even if you get a little bit of B-roll and it's not from the same day, some of that stuff you can still use as you're building your story if you end up shooting a turkey. So like from our standpoint, like, yes, I know there's still a lot of, shows that are on TV that it's pretty much like turn the camera on, you kill the turkey, you're carrying it out of the woods, and that's pretty much the end of it. For us, we like to tell a story. So if you're a storyteller, man, just have that thing with you in case you get some good sign you're looking at, or even whatever it is, you get a turkey goblin. I know we used in PA a couple years ago. I had the camera, and we I ended up getting a bird. We were scouting, and I ended up getting a bird roosted and got him on camera gobbling, and it was getting light in the background, and so you could see him in the tree, and you could see his neck, you could see him stretching out and gobbling. It was so cool, and we used that for B-roll. So
that was awesome. So that's my turkey tip. Get in your deer stand. How about that?
Use the deer stand to scout for turkey. That's
there you go. There's my tip. My tip.
But I love it. It's a new one. There you go. Maybe that's what I'll do. Just take my climber with me and just climb a tree stand.
Why not? Why not?
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you, man, and I love that we got back on here and kind of relaunched this thing, and we're going to be more consistent with it. Yeah. We will be announcing I would say our first guest. Our first relaunched guest we'll be announcing after we get this thing launched. So, one quick thing before we go. So, these video podcasts are also going to be, they're going to be in a couple places. So the video itself is going to be on our YouTube page, which is Rooted Outdoors. The actual, the audio podcast will be on the usual, your iTunes, your SoundCloud, your Stitcher, all those. Please go to our Facebook page. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Those are the two main places to find content and videos and things like that from us. And then also YouTube. So we'll make sure we get some things updated there on YouTube.
Yep.
Send us a message. We'd love to connect with you and, start to build this rooted community, this, rooted hunter community, wherever we end up calling it, the Rooted Outdoors community. We're just excited about it.
Yep. Yeah, we're just excited to have the podcast relaunched here. It's exciting. I'm excited.
Pumped.
Pumped.
Cool, man. Well, have yourself a good night, and we will be talking soon. Stay warm there in Pennsylvania.
Doing my best.
It's supposed to be 70s this week in Texas, so
man, it's crazy.
Try and send some your way.
I appreciate that.
Take care, buddy. Have a good night.
You too.
See you.
Therefore, as you received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk in him, rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith, just as you were taught, abounding in thanksgiving. Colossians 2:6 and 7.